Hello and welcome to the Waytrails podcast.
Hi, Roy.
Hi, Kim. How are you?
Yes, I'm good, thank you.
Good. All good this week?
Yes, yeah, working on the website, doing
Nice.
more trails, adding more information. So, yeah, and that's kind of what the point of this
It is.
update of the podcast is.
It
Really.
is. It's been a while since we spoke about the Western Frontway directly, isn't it? Just as a solo podcast.
Yes, well, the previous longer podcast that we did split it into stages, but that's when we still had the app available. And
Yes.
now that we've transferred everything to the website,
Yep.
we are updating the podcast as well.
We are, exactly, because it's a slightly different method, but in a funny way, it's even better for everybody because it's free and easier in a way than going onto the App Store, downloading an app, putting in a password, all of that stuff. Would you agree?
It's a lot more interactive.
It
so
is.
You have a lot more scope now on the website. Which
And
is
also,
great.
we're giving people what they want because that is,
It's
as
what
we will
people
cover.
wanted,
Exactly.
So we listened, as we ever do.
Yeah.
So this is just going to be a little bit of an introduction. It's mostly about the Western Frontway.
It is.
It's what most people are looking for, and so we're going to just give you a bit of an update.
It is. And I think
Rory.
it's worth saying that, even in the last couple of weeks, hundreds of people have downloaded the itineraries because we get an email every time that somebody does or they download the GPX. And we're talking hundreds. Yeah. And people booking their travel. And we'll come on to kind of some builds that we put into that.
Yeah.
The Western Frontway, for those of you that don't know it, shock horror, you should. It is now nearly 10 years old, in fact. It was, the genesis of it came from a letter written by a chap called Alexander Douglas Gillespie, who was a soldier in the Argyll and Sutherland Highlanders.
Yeah.
And he was in the trenches before the Battle of Loos, which is 1915. Loos is right in the north of the Western Front. It is in between Le Basset and Vimy. They're your two kind of big...
Vimy Ridge, yeah.
Yep, between Vimy Ridge, where the Canadians are famous for, but also the French earlier in the war, which everybody forgets. But he wrote a letter home to his headmaster at Winchester College and said, the only way that everyone's going to effectively come to terms with what's happening over here is if you build a path between the lines for peace, which ran the length of the Western Front, which is 1,000 kilometres. That letter was discovered in 2015 by Anthony Selden, and he put it in a book which was called Public Schools and the Great War, which was about destroying the myth slightly that it was this lions led by donkeys thing, which was actually, if you look at the kill rate, which is a horrible phrase, but that is what it's called, of public school boys, it was incredibly high. In some cases it was 3 and 4, like Eton and Harrow. Some of the war memorials at the schools are extraordinary.
Lengthy, aren't they? Yeah.
The Winchester one, the cloisters there are amazing, but I've been to the Harrow one as well, and that is extraordinary. And anyway, this idea, it was the end of the centenary, really. Do you remember the poppies in the tower?
Yes, beautiful.
All right, so we're talking about the same time that the Western Frontway was born. That caught fire, didn't it?
Yeah.
And then there was the Peter Jackson film. So these are the kind of great legacy pieces, but what everyone realised is that they were very focused on the event of the centenary, what came beyond. So we set about creating a new way to see the battlefields, which was not necessarily driving there in a coach or in a car, but seeing the entire front line on foot or on bicycle.
And being able to go to places that you've seen maybe on a film, if that's your only sort of relationship with the topic,
Exactly.
Other than a school trip. So it really puts you in the places where these really enormous decisions or events happened, and I think that's quite.
You're right, and it's the bits in between that capture people, because it's one thing to go to Verdun and to the centre of it, but it's quite another to walk the way the troops walked up to.
Shenandoah Dam.
Exactly. So you're going in between cemeteries, memorials, museums, and as a result, you're taking in a lot of French and.
But effectively,
culture.
yes, you follow. There's a lot of large rivers that you have as well. So the Ain, the Meuse, the Somme.
You're right.
And so those were natural boundaries. So a lot of the walking, delightfully, is along the towpaths of these
It
rivers.
is.
So there's a lot of nature, but also a lot of. There's a mountainous section.
Yeah, there are.
So
and we're
go
going to
through
take you
it
down
as
the
we
line in a minute. I mean, for those of you, we're saying, words like trenches and Battle of Loos in 1915. I mean, everybody listens to this from all over the world. We're not expecting you to know. This is obviously the First World War, 1914 to 1918, otherwise known as the Great War, World War One, or First World War. It tends to be the First World War in Europe and the UK, and World War One in America. The war to end all wars, it was supposedly to be. It resulted in 17 million deaths, loss of life, civilian and soldiers. Soldiers were 10 million, something like that.
And how many You have this one.
Yeah, so for every step you take on the Western Frontway, 17 people lost their lives.
So that's quite.
It is. So if you, wherever you're listening to this, if you just take 5 steps, that's really, upwards of 80 lives that were lost. The reason for that is it was great set piece battles. The trench lines formalised, but really it's the mechanisation of warfare. That's really what it's known for. Before that, it was still kind of fighting squares, cavalry charges, horses, single shot, maybe double shot muskets. But this is the advent of the machine gun, the tank, based on a water tank, heavy duty howitzer and artillery. Anybody that knows London, the Hyde Park memorial to the Royal Artillery, if you imagine 200 of those lined up.
It's not to scale, is it?
Pretty close.
Okay.
Pretty close. So moving those around isn't easy. So that's, and it was also, this isn't my words, this is many of the famous writers that wrote, it had a huge artistic aspect to it, the First World War, unbelievable poetry and books and painting. And it was really seen as the end of an entire generation of hope. There are phenomenal poems about that, about, people just wanting to get back and watch Aston Villa. It was that kind of the hopeful generation that went over with no concept of what they were going in for. That's from all sides, by the way. And it's something we've committed 10 years to. Yep. So without further ado, I've now heard this and I think, my goodness gracious me, this sounds amazing. It sounds like an adventure of a lifetime, something I must do. How do I do it, Kim?
Well, hopefully you're here as well because you are looking at it and you're thinking, is it something that I can do? It is something that anybody can do. You can do it on bicycle, you can do it on foot, you can do it in stages. The whole concept of this is to find the areas that are interesting to you, maybe, or you want to explore something that's beyond what you understood the First World War to be in your case. So yes, on the website. So we've transferred the information from the app to the website. So what you get on the website now, when you click on Western Front Way at Waytrails, you get now the free downloadable GPX, be it for the cycling or for the hiking.
And you can upload that into your preferred device, right?
Your preferred device, yeah. You get the itineraries, which we've drafted.
Thank you, Kim. That was all Kim, nothing to do with me.
Printable PDFs. And you can, they all have links inside them as well. So it takes you to the hotels that we suggest. Many of them we've visited, they know us. And they're very familiar with the Western Front Way, and they're expecting you
with open arms.
Also, the tourism offices that might be relevant, and museums, and any points of note. Really, we've tried to transfer as much information as we could from the app.
We have. I think it's probably good to stop you there and just say, but that is exactly what people wanted, isn't it? In order, what they wanted was the GPX file first up, so they could use that. It's no problem mentioning other brands, that they could use it with Garmin, Komoot, they could upload. Then they wanted the itinerary. How long am I going today, and where is my end point? That is
and we've split all that up for you now.
Yes, you have.
You also have an embedded map on the website, which you can play around with. You can zoom in on. You can see the terrain details. So it gives you much more of an in-depth information of what you might be wanting. Also, how to get there. The tram schedules and the train timetables, the flights, where to go, where to start, where to end. And also some of the stories, many of the stories that we collated over the 10 years that we were out there that were really interesting and people of note. They're all in these documents. So do take your time looking at them. They're all on the website. And finally, this summer we are starting, not us personally, but there will be supported trips. So again, you go to the Waytrails website and there's a button right there on the homepage saying supported trips, and it will take you to the two that we offer.
I wouldn't mind just putting another minute on that, because again, that has been a massive pain point for people, which is particularly walkers. I want to walk this. 50 days.
Baggage is weighty.
50 days, baggage is weighty. How are you going to cater for yourself for 50 days? Right, there is now a service that can support you on that. It's going to be, what they're going to try and do is obviously get as many people in the same time window as possible. So you would have the transports made easier. But do have a look, and it's a serious addition.
And they'll answer any of your questions as well. So they're a separate company to us, but they're there to start all these,
and we know them well.
Trips. Yes. So that is pretty much how we've transferred all the stuff that you need for free to the website.
We've really given you everything in the order and the form that you've wanted it. So we know that the people that take on the Western Front Way, it is not like going for a jog in Bushy Park. It is a serious undertaking. Yeah. And as a result, the level of detail that is provided in the itinerary is adequate, if not better, for that. It allows people to take their time. All the links to the hotels will link you directly to the page, so you can book your hotels directly. Please, please, please book your hotels before you go. Much as I love, turning up at the inn and knocking on Christmas Eve, it's not always the case.
No, these aren't very populated areas as well. So, many of these B&Bs or campsites, well, campsites are different. They tend to have larger pictures, which is also links that we have on there, but there are some that only have a few rooms and in the village, so do book ahead. And if they don't have space, just ask them where the nearest campsite is, or the next nearest B&B.
You're going to somewhere where people are generally quite friendly as well.
So friendly,
and a lot of people know what the Western Front Way symbol is.
Yeah, we also talk about wild camping on the website. So the rules and regulations in France, how that works. Yeah. It's generally tolerated and allowed. There are just some things, to do with lighting fires and things like that. Yeah. But it is very good to familiarise yourself.
Common sense.
Yes, common sense.
Good. So what we're going to do is we're going to go north to south, which is slightly strange because most people go south to north, strangely, particularly as about 75% of our audience is British at the moment, and they like to head for home.
Yeah.
Strangely enough. But we're going to go north to south, and we're just going to pick off some of the big towns, because towns really are a place of respite. They're also a place of huge historical significance. But what you tended to find, think back all that time ago to 110 years, the railway was everything. And rail hubs tended to be in towns. And a lot of the set-piece battles in the First World War happened either in or around towns. In fact, when Kim goes down the list, I think every single one does. So where are we starting?
We're going to start in Ypres.
Okay, so you've set off from Newport, which is on the coast, and Ypres is what, 40 kilometres, 30, 40 kilometres?
Yeah, you do that in a day.
In a day, okay. So you get to Ypres. Tell me about Ypres.
Well, Ypres is a very beautiful medieval town in Flanders, with a beautiful, I suppose, it's got the Flanders Museum, or in Flanders Field Museum,
which
that
is
within the Lakenhal, which is the old, I suppose, merchants' hall in the centre of Ypres. It's got really fantastic dining, lots and lots of hotels. It's got the Menin Gate, which every night they have the last post at 8 p.m. So
never missed it ever since the end of the First World War.
They've missed it once, and I can't remember what for.
There you go. Stand corrected. Yeah. But not often they've missed it.
No, and it's a great experience, and people basically go. It's free.
People come from all over the world, and they race as school trips wise, because a lot of people obviously still go to the battlefield. So that is kind of a dead cert on your hit list.
Yeah, it's also the centre point for many of the battlefield tour guides. So if you do want to extend your time there and learn more, you go to the tourist office, and they'll have a list of guides that operate in that area.
So the Menin Gate is a memorial to all of those missing or never found in the battles of Ypres, of which there were a lot. First, second, third, all around the Ypres salient. The reason it was so combative and ghastly, I think would be the word, particularly when you get to the third Battle of Ypres and you talk about Passchendaele and Tynecott, the battle in the mud, is because a salient is a bulge in the line, and effectively there was a British bulge around Ypres, and what that meant is that they were surrounded on three sides by German artillery, which meant that they could just rain down artillery for 4 years straight. There is a place called Hellfire Corner, which is heading up towards
roundabout now.
Yeah, but that is, in terms of the British Army and the Commonwealth Army, it's right up there with kind of hell on earth. There are lots of little facts, but they actually screened down the middle of the road with white sheets, so the people going to the front couldn't see the people coming back. Stuff like that.
But Ypres now is a bustling, beautiful market town.
It's the cleanest place I've ever seen. There's no gum on those streets, I can assure you. It's immaculate. Great people, great food. We're going to come on to our favourite food at the end, but one of them is very close to here.
And then from there, you aim for Arras.
Yeah.
So by that point, you'll cross the border and you get to... It's similar, I suppose it's a similar market square to Ypres, really.
It is. It's absolutely whacking great big belfry there, which is the plastic yellow, which is absolutely beautiful. Am I right in saying Arras is the capital of the Pas-de-Calais, I think it is.
Yes,
It
yes,
is.
yes.
It's the capital of the Pas-de-Calais, long-time friends of the Western Front Way.
Yeah, we've had events, and they've hosted us, we've hosted...
Really good accommodation options. They're all in the itinerary for you, but I always associate that place with summer, hot, the scrape of metal chairs on cobbles, the clinking of glasses.
When you get that first
place.
cold beer or cold rosé,
it's a great place.
That's fantastic.
Really, really good.
You've got. I would recommend you spend 2 days there, or 2 nights rather, because you can walk to the larger cemetery out.
Yes, you can. The Target. That one you mean?
No, not the Target. The one that's within Arras as well.
Oh yes, of course, the Arras Memorial.
Yeah.
So that's 35,000 people, and also that's also where the memorial.
Flying corps.
So the flying corps.
Yeah, the only first flying corps.
And Walter Tully is remembered there, who was
Walter Tull,
who was an amazing footballer. Who's remembered on the wall.
And the Resistance.
Yes.
They call it sort of the Martyrs of the Resistance. Wall around the back of the...
Which is actually the Second World War. It's on the other side of the Citadel, which was a Napoleonic barracks. So it's all there for you. And the Wellington Quarry, which was underground tunnels dug by the Kiwis, New Zealanders.
And as you walk south, you also pass the Commonwealth War Graves experience.
Yes, you do.
That's worth stopping in.
In Bahrain.
In Bahrain,
yeah, definitely.
And then you could experience how they create the tombstones, or the headstones rather.
Yeah, what they do when they find bodies and they need to repatriate them.
Horticulture, how they deal with climate change. It's fantastic, and they're so wonderful, so helpful.
Yeah.
And they're a great team. So if you have the time, stop in there. But it's just off the route, about 100 metres off the route. So
yeah, it is. It's easy peasy.
And then you get to one of your favourite places, which is Albert.
Yeah,
a hugely popular place for the Brits to
It is. Brits
start,
and the Commonwealth.
Isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's I would say it's ground zero for Commonwealth commemoration on the Western Front. Mm-hmm. First place I stayed when I was 4. All of those villages around Albert, it's worth looking at the names, because back even a generation ago, when there were veterans of the First World War alive, they didn't say I was at the Battle of the Somme. That was never what a veteran said, because everybody knew all the names of the villages. Yeah. So they would say, I was at Collincombe.
Doesn't that happen in Peaky Blinders?
It does happen in Peaky Blinders, exactly. Or I was at Fonquevillers, or Ocean Villas, which is Auchenvilliers. But that place for me in a car, it's hard to walk the Somme in a day, I have to say, because it's shaped like a lobster claw, effectively the battle. Yeah. And if Albert is at the kind of centre, kind of back of the lobster claw, and you've got the pincers either side, that's really how the battle unfolded. It was the Battle of 5 Ridges. And the Somme is very known for its undulating hills, which if you're on the high ground is fantastic, but if you're not, it's not so good.
And the station in Albert, that's quite
station's beautiful. It's been remade. I had the most extraordinary experience during the centenary, where I got off the train and it was almost the 100th anniversary of the Battle of the Somme, and everyone was in uniform.
Oh, it must have been extraordinary to see.
But there are amazing places there: Ulster Tower, Thiepval, Beaumont-Hamel, they just keep coming. Poitiers, which is kind of on the main road, is a killer main road that goes through the middle of the Somme, but that's the old Roman road, which is the Bapaume-Albert road. However, either side of it, it's just loaded with stuff. Yeah. And Tommy's Cafe is a museum / best ham, egg and chips in northern France. Yeah. It's kind of €5,
and
€10.
We take you to the west of that road.
We do.
Because of that road, we've had to avoid the eastern side, which is why the map falls.
But Albert is
fantastic, really great place.
Amazing,
fantastic restaurants, great. The Hotel Basilica Hotel,
that's fantastic.
Centre of town.
Yeah.
So we highly recommend that. There's Poppy's Cafe,
yes,
great milkshake, oddly.
There is actually really good.
And then we get to Peronne.
Yes.
Which, again, one of your favourites.
Yeah, I do.
Really small, but quite...
I like Peronne. It's an old market town. It has the Historia de la Grande Guerre, which is really one of the jewels in the crown of French remembrance and museums. Very impactful museum. They have sunk lots of uniforms into the ground, which sounds a bit odd, but it shows you what all the soldiers carried.
Yeah, it's really impressive.
Extraordinary.
They talk about artwork as well. There's a lot of original, is it Dick's?
Yes,
in there? Yep.
there are. And superb food, really, really good value. There's a good Best Western. There's a good pizza place on the square. I just think it's a lovely...
great little rescue town, really, if you're really knackered. Yeah. And it is one of the recommended stops where you go. And the chateau itself, where the museum is in, that's centuries old. There's a fort for many of the Louis kings. In fact, it goes back to the Merovingian kings, so it's a really old So you get sort of lots of history piled up together, all in this one small, very compact little town. And they've got pharmacies and supermarkets, so you can stock up.
Yep.
And then further along, I'd say quite further along, because we're sort of hot footing away.
100 kilometres, I would say.
You get to the Chemin Dam, which is another one of your...
It is famous for the, can I say the word, futile attacks up the hill for many, many years. The French...
mutinous. They were mutinous.
There were. Grisol, I think, or the discontentment, basically, which can only really be understood when you're there. It was prized high ground. It's a ridgeline that actually runs all the way to the end of the Western Frontway. That kind of ridgeline that runs through the back of France. It's like its spine there. And it was prized ground, and it was given away quite easily, given what it cost to take back, which is a theme that you will understand the more you read about the First World War. Is it's one thing to give position away, but what does it cost to take it back? Impregnable fortress held by the Germans, the Cabane de Dragon.
Museum.
Now an amazing museum, great coffee machine, we always say it.
Yeah, stop the coffee machine, because there's nothing else around.
Nothing else. I would go there and just take it in, really, and look down that slope and think, what would you do?
Very
if you were
obvious.
asked to attack?
Yeah, exactly.
It's very difficult. And then, joy upon joys, I'll let you lead on this, down to Rheims. Rheims, home of
Champagne.
There you go, bubbles aplenty.
Yes, I was quite happy there.
Yeah.
A huge city. Well, I say a huge city. The largest city on the Western Frontway. It's got the huge, beautiful Rheims Cathedral, worth.
And am I right in saying coronations-wise?
Coronations of French kings happen there. It is food and
drink,
history aplenty. So
hotels coming out your ears. They're everywhere.
It can be quite a culture shock, actually, because if you're coming down from the Chemin Dam, you come past Corbeny and these lovely, pretty villages, Crayon and so on, where there's lots of destroyed villages that you go, and then suddenly you're on the towpath into Rheims, and it sort of builds up the industriousness of it.
You've almost forgotten what a city looks like, because to be honest,
there's trams and traffic lights.
To be honest, even from Arras to here, you won't see much. It's in terms of commercialization and you're more likely to see a vending machine where they sell bread and milk.
It's wonderfully uncrowded, so it's really beautiful, a release from all the sort of the big world.
Yes.
Brain nonsense that you
enjoy your time there as well. Enjoy your time. They do a champagne tasting very differently there, where you just have a glass. You don't have to be too British about it and have a litre.
And the tourism office are top. They're
they
so great. They're really dynamic.
Right next to the cathedral. If you've got your back, back to the cathedral. It's just on the right.
I want to say it's on the Roosevelt Street.
I think so.
It's
it is.
American president
it is.
Name.
And there's good hotels there. There's Mercure's. There's those kind of
Curiades, exactly. And if you want a super spa, that's there as well.
Go for
it. And then we get to the more sort of solemn.
You're getting into the heart of French remembrance. So this is really, I think people with an interest in the First World War, maybe 1 in 20 Brits go to Verdun, but they certainly don't go any further south unless we're pushing you down there. But I really would, because you're going to get a completely different context of what the First World War means if you're the country that's invaded.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important to get hold of. We're never taught that in school in Britain.
Especially with venues called Meat Grinder.
And it's, Verdun, at one point, every single soldier in the French army fought at Verdun. It was designed to be the meat grinder, as you say. It was designed to bleed the French army dry. Again, it's another salient, but a much more prominent bulge in the line.
And the quay was rebuilt by British
it's called London Quay. And it was really, when Verdun was really under the pump, and it all looked quite bad in kind of early to 16, that was why there was the Somme. So the Somme was designed as a diversionary attack, a way to draw German forces away from Verdun. And it worked, but at huge cost. Everything links to everything. But Verdun, I don't really want to talk about it that much, because there are professional historians that could tell you far better than I can. I would get, is it Alistair Horn? Is The Price of Glory? It's probably the best book on it. And I would go there. I would spend 2 days there. I would definitely go up to the ossuary. I would just take your time.
I've never go to the church office and then.
I've never met anyone that hasn't been kind of slightly polaxed by that place. It's not a cheery place, but then again, are you expecting it to be?
It's very quiet when you go up to the monuments and things like that. It's all walkable. So you go up to the museum that's up in the in the forest, so to speak, and then you spend
try not bicycle it. If
interpretation centre.
You're never going to race through there on a bike, so just take your time. Maybe get off your bike.
And actually, the interpretation centre has a really good cafe museum, so it's a great stop-off point, so you can break up your day there as well.
Down to Luneville. So you're in somewhere where Brits just don't go, the Commonwealth people, which is such a shame.
We've worked really hard with the Luneville, actually.
Yeah, they've been a real driver of the Western Frontway in the southeast of the route.
Yeah,
it's just a magical place, great pizza place, good restaurant. The hotel and that restaurant that you have in the itinerary is fantastic.
Yeah, well, I think it's also one of the only ones there, but it's right opposite what's called the Versailles of the South. So it's the home of the Dukes of Lorraine. And it is, I mean, it's a cream cake castle that you stumble across in the centre of town. And the last king of Stanislaus was lived there, and sadly his night robe caught on fire and he died. But Place Stanislaus in Nancy is named after him. Yeah. So they were sort of compensated with this castle, and it is beautiful.
Amazing place to go.
Great place to go. Again, great place to stock up.
Extraordinary as well to learn just more about the action down there. This is really 14-15 heavy.
Americans went there to
exactly.
Sort of,
that was where they were kind of.
What's that word? Were you not
decompressed? It's the other one. It's to kind of train for the line, because their great general was the American general. Pershing, I think, said that he wasn't just going to bleed American troops on the line for the sake of it. So he wanted them to be in rotation, kind of in and out of the front line.
So that's really their inauguration to the whole.
It is. He's
front.
famous as well for carrying 2 silver pistols around like a cowboy and leather boots, which is quite cool.
Oh, I like that.
Into your heart, Munster.
Yeah, so Munster, you're sort of eking down into the Alsace region, which is my favourite place because it's all very chocolate boxy, and you've got the World Heritage Site of wine and vineyards and so on. So yes, again, this is a culinary paradise. You can either just carry on straight on the route, or you can visit places like Colmar, Ricoeur, which are extremely famous places. Absolutely rammed in the summer. Yeah, they are. So book ahead. But Munster is its sort of quieter cousin, but you get the same experience. And it's got lots of storks, the bird, it's the symbol of that area. Yeah. Pretzels, chocolate
walking
box,
groups,
timber houses.
It's hiking territory, isn't it?
And actually Munster, once you come into Munster, you'll have done the really large peaks, which you can see.
Clues in the name, Grand Ballon.
Yes, you can see on the map on the website the steepness of the terrain. But yeah, Munster is delightful and very pretty. Again, it's a great resting stop. And then your final.
Yeah, you go past Kilometre Zero, which is, most people find it quite quiet and sombre, and to think that if you've gone north to south, you've obviously passed 1,000 kilometres of fighting, which I think people find quite moving when they get there, and then into Porrentruy.
Well, it really feels like a no man's land, isn't it? Because how they've built it is really quite pretty.
There's a stone demarcation stone which marks it, which has the Bear of Bern on. I think. And then there's just a guard hut, and you just think, geez, that's.
But it's all beautifully renovated, so it's really worth doing. And then you cross this little bridge over the water, and boom, you're in Switzerland. Yep. And you get to Bonfol, which is technically the start of the trail. Yep.
Where the first marker is signboard there.
But there's really nowhere to stay there. So what we recommend is there's a 15-minute, really pretty Swiss tram that gets you to Porrentruy. And that's right opposite. There's the Hotel de la Gare, which we also recommend you stay, which is a really great hotel.
Good.
With a diner and everything.
Exactly. It's good, decent burger and chips, steak tartare.
And Porrentruy itself has got got everything. It's got a massive Migros supermarket, so that's really good.
It's got a sports shop.
A castle.
Everything you need.
It's got a fort. It's the old bishops of Basel used to be housed there in this massive fort. So that's sort of a very brief overview of your big hitters on the Western Front Way.
And we're just going to pick out a few of our favourites just to kind of plug the gaps. Yeah. I think one of mine is Supir, which is just off the Chemin des Dames, actually. It's at the beginning of the Chemin des Dames. And there's this extraordinary little village, Supir, where they have a German cemetery, a French cemetery, an Italian cemetery, and you've gone past the Commonwealth war graves. Yeah. And you think all of those nations now lying side by side. And they are literally next to each other. And they're massive, these cemeteries.
And it's the first time I witnessed these beautiful red stone crosses of the German cemeteries. And they're often three together.
Yeah, and that will can indicate a mass grave.
Yes.
Sometimes. But that's somewhere which will take your breath. When I say it's either side of the road, it's meters apart.
Yeah, and the church there does have some Commonwealth war graves there.
It does.
And it still has some of the original, artillery shells
shrapnel,
into the shrapnel
markings.
The church.
So that would be
and
one of
got
mine.
a beautiful bench. We had really stinky cheese there.
Yeah, we did. And there's a strange memorial with a kind of Robin Hood hat on.
Yeah, that's an Italian. Yeah, the Italian memorial.
One of yours?
Plug Street Woods, actually.
Nice.
Which,
right back in the north.
Yeah, right back in the north. It's just on the border between Flanders, or Wallonia, actually. It's Wallonia and France, as you come into Armentières in Europe.
The Cockerel and the Lion, where they meet.
Yep. And you have the Plug Street Memorial, which is a massive, 2 huge lions.
Great
and
cafe.
The cafe opposite is highly recommended. A few beautiful salads and lovely coffee and soft drinks, especially if you're coming from south to north this time. From Armentières up, this will be your sort of destination point. Is that cafe?
Yes.
And the Plug Street experience, which has got a great museum, and it's about
and
how
that's where
civilians lived in that area.
Yeah, and it's an interesting area because that's where the football
the Christmas truce memorial
truce
is
and
the Plug Street Woods itself. So we do take you into that. A farmer has kindly allowed us to mark in that area, and it's what the Brits used almost as a nursery. So a lot of the paths are called Piccadilly or Shaftesbury Avenue, and it's really interesting. And there's some beautiful cemeteries within that. But it's a really peaceful little track that we've added on.
Yeah, we have.
And you go up to Messines. Or Messines Ridge, and
the Messines Ridge,
in that sort of area.
Yeah,
but that's one of my favourite spots.
Nice. I'll give you one, which is again because nobody goes there in Varennes en Argonne, which is just to the northwest of Verdun. It's where Louis was captured by an overturned apple cart. But what's strange up there is you go past the Crown Prince bunker, which is, the Kaiser's bunker, which is pretty extraordinary. It's probably the best design bunker I've ever seen. It's got
got windowsills and everything. They've made it really nice.
But if you just go walking around those woods, it's everything that I would say the north isn't. It's really rugged. You can you genuinely trip over barbed wire stakes, which are still stuck in the ground.
What's that massive memorial that's there? The Pennsylvania Memorial?
Yes, there is the Pennsylvania Memorial to the Americans.
Yeah,
exactly. It's got an eternal flame. But it's the woods, it's the craters, it's you can just wander about.
Yeah.
If you see any ordnance, don't touch it.
And also, it's got a great supermarket, wash machines.
It has. It's really good.
Hotel.
I really like Varennes, and the hotel there. It was under refurbishment, but the last time we were there, the chef is an ex-Michelin star chef.
Yeah, a young couple who wanted to get out the city, and they've bought that place.
How about you?
Well,
another forest.
Yeah, well, still talking about the forest, the Argonne forest. So from Vienne-le-Château, you go down to Le Hasard Cemetery, and then you have to go through these woods. But they are the original trench lines, so they are still there. So I got a little bit off track there when we were originally looking through these woods, and I had to go from the top of this section down to a bit sort of 100 meters south, and I was sort of hopping down the hill, and I realised that they were trenches. They were still the trenches that were there, and sort of debris, and really, really impactful. And I found it quite haunting, but equally, it's as close as one would get as a natural landscape that was back then. Obviously, it's now totally surrounded by woods and forests, but at the time there was just nothing left. It was just open fields.
I would, if you have an interest in this, you're 33 minutes in, you should. If you're still listening, I would seriously read up on the Argonne Forest. Everybody assumes it's to do with the Second World War, because obviously that's the line that they took, the Germans, to go north and smash France. But don't read about it in the First World War, because they say if it hadn't been for the French at the Argonne, it would have all been over.
Yeah.
When they stopped them at the Argonne, that was just extraordinary combat, and it's nothing like you think. It's not like 1917. It's not like All Quiet on the Western Front with these machine guns rattling over open fields. It's hand-to-hand fighting with bayonets in the woods. I mean, it's very, very different, and I just find it a fascinating place for that. And I think the French down there, they're very proud of what their nation did there.
Yeah, they want it to be known, and
they do,
especially further in the south.
Yeah. So we're going to give you last couple of things. Favourite hotel, favourite meal that you've ever had. I mean, this is a decade. So my favourite hotel is an easy one. It's outside of Compiègne to the east, which is where the armistice was signed. Great place to see. But there is a place called Choisy-au-Bac, and there is a hotel there called Villa du Châtelet, which is actually a house, and you stay in a room there. wonderful couple that run it. It's a beautiful French manor house.
Yeah.
It's a proper villa. All the furniture is what I would call Louis-ish in style. There is a wonderful Labrador that might eat your croissant.
But their dining table had very famous.
So that was what I was going to say. So
sorry.
No, don't worry at all. So I sat in the seat where Foch sat, which is extraordinary. And there is a photo of him in that chair, in that room, and they're just lovely people. I would highly recommend it.
It was the home of a composer whose name sadly slipped my mind, but that's where he lived as a family, and then it was taken over
by the French High Command outside of Compiègne. So that's where they all met before they went to the armistice. It's extraordinary. And it's it's $100. It's just amazing.
Yeah, very good. But they don't do suppers.
No, they don't.
That's the only thing. So just
I think I had cheese and ham in my room, but there you go.
But Choisy-au-Bac itself has got a restaurant, so it's fine. My favourite place to stay, only because it's quite a sort of a large hotel, but it's Jardin du Metz in Verdun.
Nice.
Funnily enough, there's not that many good hotels in Verdun, I would say, and this is a large business hotel. But if you've been on the road, hiking or cycling for however many days, this is a respite. It is fantastic. Great breakfast. Fantastic. Sebastian is the receptionist.
Yeah, he's
charming. You're right on the river, and you look up to the monument of Verdun. So for me, that was a
I have to agree
spot.
with you. I mean, everybody.
Good shower,
That was my point. I was going to say everybody does this a different way, but I don't burn yourself out. Like it's quite rough and ready from, I would say, kilometre zero to Verdun.
It's just a lovely treat.
And it is a treat. You get proper power, scrambled eggs in the morning, hot bath, and you just feel $1 million.
Yeah. Especially around Verdun. If you're spending 2 nights there, it's worth doing.
And if you've got support vehicles with you, there is a big car park, which is free if you're staying there, which is quite helpful.
Yeah, 100%. Your favourite meal?
Favourite meal? I've got 2 because it's me. There is a bistro in Peronne.
Bistro d'Antoine.
Which
Book
is just
ahead.
by the Histoire de la Grande Guerre.
Yeah.
You couldn't get more French if you tried.
Yeah, it's magic.
The waiters are in white shirts, bow ties. It's that wonderful dark
almost,
wood.
Can I say, slightly hello.
It's slightly hello / Parisian.
Yeah.
But I think, if you're after that bistro experience, which is
authentic
escargot, steak bavette, proper cuts, it is fantastic red wine for, $9-10 a bottle. I would say that's there. Yeah. The food experience, I would say, is Flemish stew. Because when I've gone with people to Ypres or Dixmude or Newport, Flemish stew you'll see a lot on menus. Yeah. It's not like British stew. It's way better. But every single time, if someone hasn't been, I say have the Flemish stew, and they all go, "Oh my god, that was amazing! Yeah. It's rich, hearty."
So hearty, isn't it? That's the word for it.
But that would be my food experience. But Bistro d'Antoine. Think of me when you're there, having a large glass of red wine.
Yeah.
You?
Again, somewhere in I wouldn't even call it the middle of nowhere. It was a good hotel. It's in Uffholt.
Nice.
It's one of the ones that we recommend. It's I think it's a Best Western. And the owner, who's a big rugby fan.
Yes, he is.
They have a restaurant that's open in the evening that you need to book ahead. But if you have a room, he will prompt you if you want to book a restaurant that evening. But the steak tartare there. So funny enough, there's a lot of steak tartare on the route. It's very accessible, and it's one of the cheapest things on the menu. I love it. So
Me too.
I'm a fan. But how he does this, it's slightly thicker cut.
And he cuts it
at the table, or he brings it to the table, and but has all the condiments, and it's the way he does it. He takes it very seriously.
He does.
But that was just a treat.
It's phenomenal. I'm so annoyed. I'm actually going to go all the way back there.
We talk about it a lot.
Yeah, we do.
Day.
But we're talking like chunks. So if you know your salmon tartare, they're chunks more like that. Aren't they? And he asks you how spicy you want it and stuff.
And what we will note along the whole of the trail is that there are a lot of baguette machines, pizza machines.
Yeah. They've saved a few people actually when people get hungry. Those
and there is a lot of pizza to eat on the trail, but at some points you just want a really good.
I think if you're exercising all day, you're fine.
It really doesn't matter, and there's lots of places, lots of supermarkets and things to stock up on the way. So we hope you enjoyed.
Good, that was north to south. It is all on the website. Enjoy it. I mean, anybody that's having trepidations, buddy up, find someone to do it with. I guarantee you that if it's anything to go with how many people are doing this year, you're going to find someone.
And if you are, because it is for advanced hikers, if you're going to do the whole thing, it does take you a long time. You do need to be fit for it. There are lots of other trails on the website that you could use as training trails.
Yes, there are. Good point.
There's some in cities. There's one in Paris, London. There's the Hadrian's Wall. We list quite a few on there, so do have a look and see if there's anything that takes your fancy before you set off to do this larger Western Front Way. But we hope you do, and we hope you love it. And if there's any questions or suggestions, you can contact us directly on app@waytrails.com.
We can, and thank you, Kim, because you put a lot of prep into that episode. Thank you.
Oh, wow. Well,
it's good.
It's not a first, but, it's nice to be acknowledged.
Exactly. Good. Thank you, guys. We will speak to you soon.
Yeah, bye.
See ya. Bye.